Hey everybody, welcome back to Walking with Jesus Daily. This is day 124. I've been recently encouraged by someone I do not know from Georgia. Just recently met, and I won't call anybody out. We'll make sure I don't embarrass anybody or say anything, but I am constantly encouraged by my brothers and sisters that I get to be with on a daily basis. But to hear from somebody out of nowhere, offer encouragement is something special, and that's something only God can do. And my prayers are with those in Georgia, or those wherever that I do not know or have not heard of, that are following along with this chronological walk in the life of Jesus. We have just been taking this a day at a time, a moment at a time, even sometimes a paragraph at a time, so that we can better understand and truly feel like we're living with Jesus in this time. Now, we are still in Matthew chapter 6, and we've just finished talking about when you give, when you pray, and now we're going to do a third part of this, which is when you fast. I find it very interesting that in all of these cases, it was not if you choose to, or if you get around to it, but instead it's pretty clear. It says when. Now we'll read the ESV, we'll read the Amplified, and we will discuss. And then it'll be up to you guys, and hopefully you have hearts that are ready to receive, hearts that are ready for transformation, minds that are ready in the same way, so that when God speaks, you are able to hear clearly. You are willing to go. He emboldens you to not only hear the gospel, but to live it out in your life. Living it out in such a way that other people see and wonder and want to know more about you. And by more about you, I mean more about the hope that is in you, the life that you live, and what keeps you going. Like, in this world, sometimes we're pretty beat down. So how is it that we're able to smile through things that should otherwise bother us, or should otherwise mess things up for us pretty good? How is it that we're able to find joy in situations that normally would cause people distress or pain? And we know for fact and for real and for truth that our joy is not something that comes from this world. Our joy is, the source of our joy is not this world or the things in it, so, or even the people in it or anything like that. So as that fantastic song says, something along the lines of, the world can't take what it didn't give to me. If your joy comes from God and from His Spirit, then how can the world take that away from you? It cannot. But if your joy comes from this world, you've never experienced joy, and that happiness will be fleeting. I promise you that. All right, let's dig in here. Matthew 6, 16, 17, and 18. 3 short verses. So maybe you guys get a short one today. Who knows? And when you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces, that their fasting may be seen by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, that your fasting may not be seen by others, but by your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Now, this is the third time it's been mentioned of when you, is the third time it's been mentioned of in secret with your Father who is in secret, right? All right, Amplified. And when you fast, do not look... Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Sometimes my phone gets a mind of its own, so I'm just got to go in and make some changes. Here we go. Matthew 6:16. And whenever you are fasting, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they put on a sad and dismal face, like actors, discoloring their faces with ashes or dirt, so that their fasting may be seen by men. I assure you and most solemnly say to you, they already have their reward in full. But when you fast, put oil on your head as you normally would to groom your hair, and wash your face, so that your fasting will not be noticed by people, but by your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. All right, so let's discuss this just a little bit real quick. As we are reading this, let's go back up to the beginning of chapter 6. In verse 2 it says, when you give to the needy. The word when is important in what it's saying. I am going to just real quick check it out, what this word is. It means when, whenever, as long as soon as. So it is almost an expected practice, right? When you give to the needy. Verse 5, when you pray. And verse 17, when you fast. Before that, he was reviewing different parts of the law. In this section, he's discussing different ways that they do things that were not necessarily a part of everyday life, but were a part of what they did. When we go back up to the first part, it says in verse 4, so that your giving may be in secret. In verse 6, but when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And in verse 18, that your fasting may not be seen by others, but your Father who is in secret. So, 3 things: giving, praying, fasting. When you do these things, I believe these to be, and of course it's the number 3, that makes perfect sense, right? But I believe these things to be very important for us to pay attention to. These 3 things would be things that we're going to incorporate into our lives on a regular basis. We're going to give on a regular basis to those who need it. We're going to pray on a regular basis. We're going to fast on a regular basis. And no one is going to know about it to the extent that you aren't making it known so that people can see that you're holy. Now, is it okay to reach out to someone? Because it's the intent of the heart. Is it okay to reach out to someone and say, hey, I just want you to know, I am going to spend some time today in prayer and fasting. And your name is on my list of people that I really want to pray about. So do you have something heavy, or do you have something I can pray for about you, or pray about for you? You are not looking, if you're looking for that person to glorify you and to lift you up, maybe it's best you don't tell anybody. I will sometimes tell somebody, hey, I'm fasted. I'm going to spend some time in prayer. I'm going to lift you up today. I want you to know that, so that every time you feel strengthened, every time you feel at peace, every time something is joyful where it normally isn't, I want you to know that that is God. That is God who loves you and who hears the prayer of those who call out to Him, so that you can be strengthened and you can know that when you are well, that you can fast and you can pray, and God will hear that and He will bless people in that way. I see it as an opportunity to build faith in God and faith in prayer and the power that is in prayer. And if we're able to do those things, more of this is going to actually take place. And if more of this prayer and fasting and giving takes place, we look more and more like Jesus and look more and more like the kingdom. And as we look more and more like Jesus and the kingdom grows. Because who wouldn't want to look at peace and with great joy? These are two things that people all over are actively looking for on a regular basis. They search the entire world and their entire lives for something that will give them peace or that will give them joy. Being rewarded secretly by your Father in heaven is where peace and joy come from. To be loved by Him is unlike anything else. It's talking here in three different ways about people seeking for themselves versus honoring and glorifying God. He calls the people that do this hypocrites. Now, you ask about fasting, perhaps, in the Old Testament. There was one day, I believe it was the Day of Atonement. Actually, don't take my word for it. Let me make sure. Where fasting was required, where everyone fasted. And that is Leviticus 23:32. Let's check that out. Leviticus 23:32. And that says, "It shall be to you a Sabbath of solemn rest." Okay, let me go up one. On the 9th day of the month, beginning at evening, from evening to evening, you shall keep your Sabbath. So, I'm not sure. There, it's talking about the Day of Atonement. Talks about working. Well, you can read about it. This is just what my information comes from, what it says. But let's make sure that we're not looking for the glory of men, not in how we give to make sure people know, not in how we pray to make sure that people know, or to using repetitive big words or whatever it might be to make sure that people think differently of you or that you think God is going to hear you because of that. And in the same way for fasting, if you have not put fasting into your life, can I ask that you do? You don't have to tell anybody. You may think that it's very difficult. That's Satan's lie. Your body can go over a month without food, and you will live. There are people that have gone a lot longer than that without food, and they've lived. Water, a little more difficult, but food, yes. When you fast, and yes, when, sometimes it's okay to start with a small period of time. If you're not good at it and it's new to you, it may be best just to say, okay, I am going to skip breakfast, and I'm going to have my last meal at 7 at night. Now, I'm not going to eat anything. I'm going to begin my praying there, and then I'm going to go up to lunch the next day. And in that time, it's going to be spent in prayer. And you say, well, that's easy. You'll be asleep for half of it. Well, if you sleep like I do, or some other Americans, you are up frequently. And when you are up frequently, you often pray. So there's a good opportunities for you to pray. You can fast from other things than just food. Anything that has a grip on you, anything that would be an actual true sacrifice. There's people that have done phone fasts and whatever. What we're talking about here is food fasting. So that's what I'm going to mainly put my focus on. Once you've proven to yourself that you can go without breakfast, you might be set up for a time where you can skip lunch. So you can go from dinner to dinner. And you can kind of work your way into it, slow roll into it. I don't know the eating habits of everybody, but to remind yourself, it's a great reminder in this. If your body is used to eating every so many hours, and then you go without food and you feel miserable for so many hours, it's a great reminder that the body without food is weak. The spirit without spiritual food is weak. If you've spent more time in a day eating than you have praying, or in the Word, or meditating, or whatever it might be, if one of those is far greater than the other, you've got to start thinking about your spiritual health. And this is a great way to do that. So take time dedicated that nobody knows about, just you and God. And just say, hey, every time I feel hungry, I'm going to remind myself of how weak I am in spirit. And this is not the poor in spirit. This is a little bit different. But how weak I have made my spirit because I have not fed it. I feed my body. I know what it feels like to feel full. I know what it feels like to feel satisfied. But does my spirit feel full or feel satisfied? And every time that hunger pops up in your brain and in your belly, you're reminded to pray. Praying will not necessarily take away your hunger. That's not the point. The point isn't to ask God to get you through your fast. You can, obviously. You can ask God for whatever you like. But that wouldn't really be the purpose of the fast. Right? The purpose of the fast wouldn't be just to get through it. The purpose of the fast would be to spend some significant time in prayer to God. To deny yourself is the very beginning of becoming a disciple. Denying yourself food should not be that hard. So when you fast, make it the same as when you pray and when you give. Not to be glorified or seen by men, not to be hypocritical, but instead to be a selfless act of humility and sacrifice to your God, who loves you and gave himself up for you. If that's not enough reason to do something, I really don't know what is. And to think about it without a reward, just out of love, is important. Jesus reminds them these 3 times that they will receive a reward from the Father. But to get into a mindset of doing things out of love and not out of a reward is also very important. To live a life as a disciple is to learn to live a life without expectation, without seeking reward, but it's to live in this freedom of loving God in a way that is that is the reward. To get to love Him and be loved by Him is the reward. All right, I'll stop talking. I was going to go into a big old deep dive on fasting and the incredible power that it has in healing of your body, and in how it's kind of how we were made to be, to an extent. Made to be to the extent of over illnesses and stuff. But anyway, if you want to know any of that stuff, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll throw something up about it. But otherwise, I'm going to let these 3 be yours: giving, praying, and fasting. Love you guys.